Go. I'm back. It's been a hot minute. Oh shit. I should probably comment those out. 452, 449, and 451. I don't like it. Flooding. Um, there we go. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm also gonna have to do there we go. Okay. All right. So far so good. I did a little demo test record video before I went live to actually implement a wait feature. The wait feature is kind of fun if you you crank up how many orcs we're actually spawning right now. I think that message could be better. Instead of just player attacked, um, we should say how much damage they took. Because eventually that number is going to change and each attack might deal different damage. Shorter messages might be preferable. There's going to be a lot of text, but I want to be very cautious about just how much text we're presenting and where. Because I want the experience to feel good, but I don't want it to feel overwhelming. There's going to be a lot of feedback. So it's one of the things that I'm thinking about right now. Uh, You took one. There we go. There we go. That's not bad. That's not bad. Nice. Got a little bit of a larger room we have spawned here. All right. All right. This is feeling good. It's feeling good. You know, it's a real small thing, but all right. What's next? Oh, so with the implementation of the wait, one of the things I want to do is give the player the ability to change what direction they're facing without it consuming a turn. I'm still working out the best control schema for this, because currently you navigate using the number pad. It conforms to the 8 directions that you would normally move rather easily. The when you press 5, currently that's wait, but I kind of also want to try something where so the attack button's also used to cycle through messages at the moment. One thing that we could do is introduce a flag into game state that if the player presses the wait key the first time and they're not in this particular new state, then they're not attempting to change direction. This is kind of a hack, but you know, I think this could work actually. I like to have data types of similar type next to each other. We'll player changing direction. Instead of waiting at first, if the player hits wait, we're going to set them into this state, right? If the player's in the changing direction state and they happen to hit action wait a second time, then we can properly execute a real wait. And then we can also set changing direction to false at this point. If they're in the changing direction state, then we're going to want to set that player's direction, like update which direction they're actually facing. So we're going to need a function for that, right? West, east, north, south, 1, 2, 3, 4 other directions. Northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast. So for each one of these, we're going to hard code this specifically for the player to start with. Oh, we have to actually pass in what the direction is. No, do update I think indicates, well, let's see. Oh shit. What? Oh. We have to clean up because we changed game state, so it threw everything off. Oh wait, it's moving though. It's actually moving. That's not what I want. Oh, it's still continuing to go after that. We need to actually return early. Or wrap the rest of this in an else. Oh, sweet. Oh, sweet. Oh, sweet. Oh, sweet. Oh, this is awesome. Because now we can be very specific about our attack movements. Now, normally, the previous version, you would have to consume a whole turn and a movement action in order to face upright. Now, all we have to do is press 5 and then 9. We're correctly facing the enemy, and now I can, boom. Fucking awesome. Let's I'm gonna have to get some more coffee here in a sec. Also gonna have to take the baby out. But damn, we got something done already. Fucking amazing. because they're too stupid. They weren't able to figure out that they could get into these two squares to try and attack me as well, which is going to be one of the better upgrades to enemy pathfinding that I do in the near future. All about the little details. Got clapped. So one of the other things that I've been thinking about getting into the game that's a bit of a better upgrade is I mean, we need to be able to do more than just attack, right? We need to be able to block. Blocking is an interesting and complicated process at the animation level. It'll be interesting implementing at the liblogic level, but in libdraw, there's a number of hurdles that we're going to have to overcome. One of the hurdles that is going to be the easier one is implementing items sitting on top of tiles. That's a pretty easy first target because then that gives us an opportunity to implement a pickup action. It also gives us a chance to get the basics of an inventory system going. I'm going to do my best not to overcomplicate the initial scaffolding for these because it's very easy to rabbit hole, and I could end up spending a very long amount of time on each of these different things. So we want to be able to place a shield in the dungeon that the player can pick up, perhaps also a sword, and perhaps even disable attacking until you have picked up and equipped a weapon. This would kind of create a situation where I could construct dungeons where the player starts with no equipment and then has to carefully navigate to the first equipable item that they can see without hitting a trap or without getting hit by an enemy. So we want to be able to have like a sword and a shield floating in the dungeon, right? Okay. We want to get a sword and a shield just chilling here, right? Might be a good time for me to boot up Ace Sprite. Okay, so we also have this one. There's our floating sword. I standardized everything to 32 by 32 in order to give some appropriate buffer space. In future versions, of this engine, the way that we go about handling sprites might be very different. But in the very beginning here, this is working. So okay. All right. We got our long sword. Let's also go and deal with the shield. It's been a while since I've actually had the items displaying in the engine, so, or any items displaying for that matter. Okay, so maybe if I'm lucky, it all still works pretty good. Okay, so I can just save that. Export sprite sheet. E. Save as. Oh, my baby doll just woke up. I'll get y'all some tunes. We're gonna have to step OUT. I know she's got some business. All right.
flaming steel. The juices ooze like rivers in the tree. A new member finder. A new member finder. A new member finder. A new member finder. The rising smoke is a honeymoon fragrance. The tender elves put up some resistance, but it's the hunt that makes the flavors pleasant. When they fall, we gorge, enjoy all of it.
Families are in full agreement.
meat, elf, meat, elf, meat, elf, meat, elf, meat, elf. Elf stir fry, teriyaki, elf barbecue, elf sandwich, elf and chipotle, and breakfast elf muffin. Eat them alive, elf meat all the time. Elf meat. We could eat an elf for breakfast today. One of the elves for breakfast. Elf hot dog, elf sandwich, elf and chipotle, and breakfast elf muffin. Eat them alive, elf meat all the time. Elf meat, elf meat. We could eat an elf for breakfast today. One of the elves for breakfast. Ever-Jesus, holy liver, drawing hands, blood on his feet. Oh, kill, eat the meat, killing eyes, halfling flock. Figure up, tasting, disgustingly suffering. But nothing so calculate, very delicious.
Okay. Anyone chatting? Oh shit, we got some people watching. Fuck yeah. Also playing with Raylib and C. I've recently had to learn the hard lesson that you need to, much more so than any other coding tool I've used. I have a clear idea of the control flow at the start. Oh yeah, absolutely. I've already began. I've been dealing with the control flow issues for a while now, actually. So, you know, good catch. One of the initial problems that I was facing, oops, was having to do with the back and forth. The back and forth between the player making a turn and then all of the different entities in the dungeon getting able to make their turn as well. Oops. All right, we're going to work on item spawning. My dog wants some attention now. Certain times in the day when I can catch her when she's asleep. She just got up to go do some business outside, though. Drank some Wawa. She's a good girl. She just wants to be loved and cared for. She also prefers certain positions, but she likes to have her butt like right up against me. If she doesn't know where I'm physically at, she starts to freak out a bit. That's why when I get up and I start moving around the apartment and taking care of different things, or, you know, previously I was working out of my bedroom that was renting from a family, but I would always talk to her. I always talk to her to, for one, she's very intelligent. She understands. All dogs are much more intelligent than I think people have ever given them credit for. You trying to say I gotta wash my hands? Are my hands dirty? You use face rubbies. As far as control flow goes, there's an idea here. Over in Game Loader, this is the main core of the game loop, right? From the top down. We accept player input, we process a logic tick, we update the sprites, and then we draw a frame. And at the moment, I mean, I'm not using the auto reload as much as I'd like. It's something we could also work on. In some cases, Well, actually, no. In every case, it's probable that actually, yeah, if game state changes, the hot reload doesn't work. It's possible in the future I could add a additional layer of hot reloading to handle when game state changes to make it more safe. But the idea is that if we make any changes to lib logic, like any of the functions as it's running, then we should be able to safely close the game engine down without closing the program. And if it's just lib logic, hopefully we can set this up so that it doesn't reload both. It actually attempts to reload draw before logic, which I'm not sure that's accurate either. If that's how it should be, rather. So with let's see. Here, drink some more of this. All right, so with us on a new branch, let's focus on spawning an item, right? All of our textures are defined here. Originally I was calling it buckler. Actually, that's probably still the one that I should use. Back over here in Sprite. Got the dinky old buckler. Buckler sheet. Now notice that the buckler doesn't have a shadow. And it might be that we end up not making these floating, or we might end up creating our own shadow. So like, you can see it's like centered in the direct center of the tile. So I don't know that we're gonna need a shadow here. Or maybe the shadow would actually come like right here, because then it's like up there when we actually do something to it. So, but first let's see how this looks when we actually get to spawn it over in liblogic. So let's take a look at how we actually created NPC. Because the way that we create an NPC is not too far away from the way that we would want to create a an item. Oh, you got your claw. Right. Okay, so the way that we would actually create something like that. So like take a look at new NPC. Now we have to define items, right? Take a look at entity type. Weapon. So some of these fields won't apply to items necessarily, and that's okay. We can have ideally a robust entity class that can be used for a number of different types of entities, such as NPCs, weapons, armor, other items. So items obviously don't have a race, but we do have to specify where they spawn at. There is going to be a ultimate string that gets assigned to the item, which may or may not get updated or changed. But whenever we create a new entity, it gets assigned an entity ID. Or rather, we pass that in because that's just an incremental value that we add one to every time we create a new entity. But a new item, be new weapon. And eventually we're going to have to pass in certain weapon characteristics. type of weapon it is, how much damage it does, any sort of bonuses or modifiers, how much it might weigh. I don't know that I'm going to implement weight into the game, but it's an idea. Certainly come down the road. But at a very basic, at the very most basic, this is our start here. So using a similar wrapper in liblogic, okay, so this should be the very basics that we need to actually create a logical weapon entity and place it somewhere in the dungeon. All right, we could just try +1 for right now. This may not always work, but it'll get us started here. Now, that's only half the equation. The other half is that we have to add code to libdraw now. In draw dungeon 4. Now, one thing that is a question is when we create our sprite groups, we have to specify a like this code needs to be updated big time. So this code makes the assumption that the entity has a race, and it may not, because weapons don't have race, right? Now, else if we type entity weapon, we're going to hard code in the assignment of the asset for this until we build out the dynamicity and also add in more assets. Eventually, we'll have different weapon types, different types per type. So, like, for instance, sword, axe, mace, and then variants on those based on their metal or construction type. It's not exactly ECS. I'm probably doing some sort of hybrid style. I'd like to make things more component oriented. At this point, I'm pretty deep in, so going back and like I'm not doing a full rewrite again. This is like my third or fourth stab at this. I've gotten this far, which is further than I've ever gotten in the process, so not worried about that. So over in, so this is specifically for drawing dungeon tiles, right? Extra constants, we're not even using that right now. Here we are. Okay, so yeah, previously I was doing something like this. So okay, here's how this is gonna work. Okay, so our buckler is defined at 74, which is good. So over in texture keys, we're not even doing buckler right now, we're doing sword. Okay, so what sprite is our sword sprite? Longsword. Longsword sheet. Buttons. Okay. Okay, there's our. We only have one thing for it right now, so it's all good. So we're probably going to want to make sure that items render underneath players. like if an item spawns in a location where a player's at, it should spawn beneath the player. So I'll probably have to update the drawing order. But I think we're pretty close to being ready to test this. Uh-oh. 1070. Race type is out of bounds. Oh. We don't even have an RT there. Oh shit, yeah, look at that. That's fucking awesome. Um, 685 of lib, let's see. We got some bugs. 685 of libdraw. We don't have to necessarily print something every time that we fail to draw a shadow. If the shadow's not there, that's fine. Um, 347 now. Um, 102. The sprite group. There we go. Not sure I like how rapid that's bouncing. A lot of that has to do with the animation speed that I have tuned things to. That still seems kind of like fast for what we're doing here. Well, the sword draw is underneath, which is good. So now we have something displaying, and it has a logical representation in the dungeon. We want to do something like we have no inventory at the moment, right? We want to disable attacking unless the player has a weapon equipped in their inventory. So now we have multiple systems that we have to take care of, right? Not only do we have to figure out an equipment system, but we also have to set up an inventory system. I'm going to prepare some tunes. I can step out back for a moment. Not doing work metal again. We'll do excuse me, we'll do that. Fuck yeah. Do some industrial. What was I thinking? The good start. So when the player picks up an item, where does it go? It starts off with no inventory, right? The only entities that we want to have an inventory are going to be items, but kind of getting sick and tired of doing all these mallocs. So fuck it for right now. It's just a primitive. These are primitive functions on entity that would allow us to add an item to our inventory. We would also want to get the inventory count. Oh, I see you. Don't worry. I will liberate you from your earthly struggle. Since people don't seem to get the hint. Don't worry. I got you. That's right, get the fuck out of here. You don't advertise in my channel, bitch. Okay. Got a good setup on here. What does it mean to pick up an item, right? It means to add it to your inventory and to remove it from the tile that it's on. So this is a two-step process, because tile that you're on could have more than one item. So when you're on top of a tile and you attempt to pick up an item, we first have to look through the list of entities on that tile, check to see if any of them is an item. And the first item that we encounter, we have to remove that from the tile, or rather remove the ID from the tile. And then we have to add the ID to the player inventory. So I thought it would be useful to have a count that we display in the debug panel. Okay. So now we're ready to actually try to pick this thing up. It's making a bunch of assumptions here that it didn't need to. But every dungeon tile has a list of entities. No, 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 no. I'll remove. Uh, oh, wait. Oh, damn, it's still early. Fuck. That's awesome. All right, why is this comma character not working? All right, so comma's actually registering a turn. Weird. Because okay, it is doing it, but it's also picking something up unexpected. Oh, this is returning early, and it's never setting the animation flag. Oh, good. There we go. Okay. somehow my microphone got dropped off a cliff there. Okay, we're back. What's good, everybody? Okay, so I would prefer to be able to cycle messages with a number of different keys, including, like, if you press the pickup item key when we go to handle player input, cycle messages on either pickup or attack. Is that right? One turn, 2 turns. So this is a good step forward. Now we need to disable attacking. Like, we need another primitive function. Oh shit, we can't tell from here because we have no access to information about that from here. That's gonna have to be liblogic. It's a good start. So, do we punish the player for trying to attack if they don't have a weapon? I don't think so. Else we want to do something else. You have no weapon to attack with. So this should form the most basic of basic inventory systems that I could possibly come up with here. We can't even attack it anymore. We can still change position. We picked up a weapon, and now we can actually attack. So far, so good. This is a step in the right direction. Code base is going to be really trashed up by the time I finish implementing both the shield and the blocking mechanic. So not only do I have to get that working for the player, I also have to get it working for the enemies too. We're going to want to have it so that a player can attack an enemy who is blocking, and the block registers for their turn. So like, for instance, if I choose to attack an enemy, and that enemy is in the blocking state, well, better yet, is there going to be a chance to block, or is it going to be something that you can manually choose to do? Right? Like, and what is the effective block going to be on the actual exchange of damage? So, you know, there's going to be a lot of math and calculation that we have to implement. We have the infrastructure to go back and smooth those parts out now. But getting block in there is going to be a major step forward, because whether or not we choose to manually allow the player to press a button to block, or if we implement some sort of automated system where anytime you receive an attack, there's a chance that you are triggered into the block state for that attack. Not to mention what would happen if multiple enemies attack you. This is one reason I think Let's see, the way the block animation actually works with the assets that are provided is that we have to attach the shield to the player, right? Like after you pick up shield, the shield is now a functional part of the player in terms of the layers of the sprite. And there's the movement animation, which, you know, it'll like show the shield on the player. But then there's the actual, there's the player animation for when the player performs a blocking action. And then there's the layer for that animation for the shield. And not to mention, depending on which direction you're facing, depends on which version of that sprite has to be displayed. Because there's actually a front version and a back version, because the context of the graphics change requires a different sprite in order for it to look nice. That's gonna be a fucking pain in the ass, honestly. It's gonna look really good when it's done, but it's gonna be a mammoth fucking bitch to get over that hurdle. I've done it once before and it was a pain in the ass the first time. That's how I know it's a pain in the ass. Even just thinking out loud, because I've already done this once before. It was more of a pain in the ass than it was to implement the shadows. A lot of this code is a long time coming. Like this engine, this structure, this layout, a long time ago was originally done in libstl. And I decided at the beginning of 2024 to start playing around with Raylib and saw that it was a very viable alternative, and I began kind of mainlining it for my development process. It's allowed me to get actually much further, faster than libstl offered. So, you know, it's a good thing in the long term. Much further along now. I'm gonna eventually have to go to the fucking store, get some groceries. I need some shit, man. I need some dog food. Need some coffee. Need another gallon of milk. I could use some more food items for when I finish off the leftovers I'm working on right now. I was eating takeout for a while. I'm starting to cook again. I like to cook big bulk things that I can reheat, so that way I save money over time. That way I can do bulk meal preparation and feed myself for several meals ahead. One thing I'm missing at the moment is the microwave. I had one previously at the old place. I just have been too lazy to go get it. I have a air fryer and a stove, which is pretty good. I can always reheat things on the stove in my wok or in a pot or a pan. Oops. see, what's next? Oh yeah, so I was talking about shields, right? So what's the problem with shield? Why is it so hard? I'm gonna do this in a very careful process because this process is going to be the same anytime I want to add a new action that has a corresponding animation to any particular NPC's inventory. So essentially, it's like we're updating the sprite group, right? So like, let's see. All right, so human guard is right here. Human guard success is right here. Their shadows are right here. That corresponds to this sprite sheet and this sprite sheet. Notice that there's no shield on this guy. However, there are shields over here. Now, here's something interesting, right? Let's take this sheet, go back over here, drop it down. Now notice that looks pretty sick almost. Like this looks pretty good. Now, that's the front sprite. Let's take the back one. It almost looks accurate, right? But what we actually end up having to do for that one is we have to draw the hero first. So if he's facing a certain direction, then it makes sense, right? So this is creating some edge cases in my system here. This is why it's kind of an annoying thing to figure out. I had to kind of craft the animation system around the assets that I was provided, and I'm still having to do that here. It's not anything we can't figure out, though, because I've done it once before. And dealing with it is similar to how we deal with drawing shadows for the sprites. Because the shadows themselves are a separate sprite. They have the same number of contexts as well as frames as their corresponding sprites that they belong to. So like every NPC has a shadow. Like every one of these dudes has a corresponding shadow sprite beneath it as a separate sprite sheet. So back over in our code here. We have the initial numerical definition for the human guard texture. So let's take a look at libgamedefines, where we associate a human readable identifier to the particular sprite. So in this case, 66 is human guard right here. And if we take a look at texture keys, we'll see that we've already attached human guard as one of the actions that we can take. So we've kind of got the bare minimum loaded into the system. So how does libdraw decide what needs to be drawn next, right? So an update sprite, a number of different functions that alter the state of the sprite. For instance, we have update sprite position, which if a sprite is moving, it gets the sprite group gets attached to a special value that keeps track of where in the smooth, I call it the smooth move process, where we move a sprite from one tile to another in a smooth fashion so it's not jumpy. And this way we were able to keep everything grid aligned while still having this appearance of things moving in a very cohesive fashion. So update sprite attack sets a number of different switches based on checks on the entity itself. So for instance, if we wanted to do a very rudimentary thing here, so we have a correlation between a particular index into our texture keys that associates with which sprite we actually want to render depending on what state the entity is actually in. As an example, if the entity race is human and the entity is attacking, then we want to set the index of the current animation on that sprite group to the attack animation, which corresponds to index 12 in our list of textures. So if we go back to our list, wherever the fuck it is, here it is, texture keys. when we actually count it out, you notice that the shadows are on odd number indices. So I tried to arrange it so that each action was immediately followed up by its shadow. So that way, so long as I conform to the system, everything plays nicely. And also, if we attempt to grab a sprite and it doesn't have a shadow, then I write code to make sure that it's not a problem when we don't do anything with it. So we count it out. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12. This is index 12. This is also index 12, so I've kept that cohesive. So if we press a button or we define an action key for block, or we do some sort of automated system where it automatically blocks, because even if you choose to block, like, what's the ultimate utility beyond, the simple, it's like, and think in terms of D&D mechanics, right? Like, you roll to attack player, and they have a buckler equipped. That buckler gives them an increase to their armor class. So realistically, you shouldn't be able to take an action for block, I think. Or maybe you should. This is a tough question. Does trying to think what would make the best gameplay experience? I think automated blocking would be the most fun. It'd be a little bit harder to implement, but for testing purposes, we can assign a button to it for right now. Just to test that we can like set the animation state. Just doing human guard for right now. So oh, and there's also the problem of blocking in a certain direction, right? I'll do the animation. And that's step one. We're gonna have to also get the shield, or at least the buckler, actually in the dungeon. Did it actually take up a turn? Yeah. Okay. Field. Eight. So eventually, depending upon, the more differentiated types, will load different things here. This is a good placeholder for right now. Hell yeah, look at that shit. We can't quite pick it up yet. And I see also there's a little bit of an animation glitch there. Same thing here. I knew that was going to happen. Not anything I can't fix. It would be nice to be able to have dynamic messages here. Okay. This is a great use case for one of my LLM setups. Try this out. Wait, right. VSN printf. Okay. Good. Oh, hell yeah. There we go. We got that shit. Oh, dude, that's so awesome. Hell yeah. All right, we are picking up swords and shields. That's fucking great. Okay, let's fucking go. This might be a good time for me to take a break. Been on for a minute. All right. Yeah, I've almost been on 3 hours. 0 drop frames. Fucking amazing. Absolutely banger. Um, just for funsies. Get some orcs back in here. I might start to like dump a small message log on the left hand side that has like a historical listing of the different messages, because there's a difference between the messages that are actively in queue that show up through the windows versus me keeping like track of all of the different messages that you've ever received. Like a max number of messages you can have in queue, but we can tune that over time. But we are going to want a dynamically growing list of messages. Oh, that's too much. That's way too much shit. Nah. All right. Uh, It's 256. Yeah, make sure you always free your memory when you're done using it. All right, we're gonna stop here before I get too crazy. Actually got a lot done. First real successful stream in a hot minute. So progress is progress. But let's recharge, regroup, stretch our bones a bit, and we'll get back to it later on. Peace out, everybody.